Namaskaram. I am extremely delighted to give this webinar talk on Dhyana and Samadhi according to the Acharya Sri Nathamuni tradition called Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. At the outset, I would like to thank Swami Atma Priyanandaji Maharaj, who has directed me to make this talk. Let me start with a prayer. योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोतं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रा असिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं श्रीमते अनन्ताय नागराजाय नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्णवागीश यतीश्वराभ्यां सम्प्राप्तचक्राङ्कण भाष्यसारं श्रीनूत्नरङ्गेन्द्र यतौ समर्पितस्वं श्रीकृष्णमार्यं गुरुवर्यमीडे विरोधे कार्तिके मासे शतताराकृतोदयं योगाचार्यं कृष्णमार्यं गुरुवर्यमहं भजे। कृष्णसूर्यदयापात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्देकं योगदेशिकं। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। The topic assigned to me is Dhyana and Samadhi according to the Nathamuni's tradition brought out by our Yogacharya Sri T. Krishnamacharya, which is in the tradition of Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. Dhyana and Samadhi, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi together are the three angas, antaranga, that is internal practices of the Ashtanga Yoga. So let us first have a very quick look into what is this yoga word. What is its origin and evolution? Yoga traces its origin to Vedas, a compendium of knowledge. Vedas are divided broadly as Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. Even though there are 4 Vedas, they are further divided into Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda in each of them. Rituals in Karma Kanda have practical application of yoga. Example, daily sun meditation called Sandhyavandanam. It's a comprehensive model of meditation using Gayatri Mantra. Other rituals are also having the same components of yoga with asana, pranayama and all. Upanishads, which form the core of Jnana Kanda, contains references to yoga. We will see some of them. Yunjate manauta unjate dhiyaha vipra viprasya brakato vipaschitaha. This is from Rigveda, Yajurveda, Taittiriya, Aranyakam, Shvetasvatara Upanishad. You can see the importance of this mantra found in 3 places. Mantra says the sages of the great all-knowing, they control their mind, mana unjate, and control their dhiya unjate, intelligence. So one of the important components of yoga is about control of mind, intellect. Shvetasvatara Upanishad talks about the practice of yoga as under. It says, Tirunnatam sthapya samam shariram hridindriyani manasa sanniveshya brahmodupena pratareta vidwan srotamsi sarvani bhayanakani. Holding the body steady with the 3 upper parts, body, neck and head, erect, causing the senses and the mind to enter into the heart, the wise man should cross by the boat of Brahman all the streams which cause fear. So the purpose is to remove fear and all related to fear. Here the fear is about rebirth, bhava bhayam. And what is to be used is Brahman itself, the Supreme Being as the boat. And that is done through a process where the upper parts of the body are held erect, causing the senses and mind to enter the heart. So the process itself is very clearly talked about, the process of Dhyanam. Very clear exposition, procedure of Dhyanam. Kata Upanishad gives a definition. Tam yogamiti manyante sthiram indriya dharanam apramattastada bhavati yogohi prabhavapyayo. So this says they consider it to be yoga, the steady control of the senses. Senses, when we say senses, they are not simply the 10 senses, karmendriya, jnanendriyangal. It includes the mind also, which is manas, 11th indriya. Then one becomes undistracted. When the senses are under control. And for yoga comes and goes, one has to be very careful, because unless the mind is controlled and held properly, it can fluctuate and it can be either useful or harmful also. The message of the Vedas are further elaborated and made comprehensible through the Itihasas, Puranas and Darshanas. References to yoga are found in all the above. Let us take one of the important Itihasa, Mahabharata, in which Bhagavad Gita forms a part of it, which is the Yoga Shastra, most important Yoga Shastra. And in this there are 3 definitions for yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate, evenness of the mind is said to be yoga. Yoga karmasu kausalam, yoga is skill in action. Tam vidya dukkha sanyoga viyogam yoga sangitam. Know this deliverance from association with misery. Just now we saw in the Upanishad to be yoga. This is a very elaborated as a separate topic itself. And the Bhagavad Gita gave Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, which are all very, very important in reaching the goal. In fact, Bhagavad Gita is, apart from Yoga Shastra, is a part of Vedanta itself, of the Prasthanatraya. If we come to the Puranas, there are extensive references to yoga, particularly Ashtanga Yoga in the Puranas. Now, yoga gets full, independent, comprehensive treatment in the Darshana segment. We have 6 darshanas called Vaidika Darshana, Nyaya Vaisheshika, Sankhya Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa, of which yoga is given in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. It is found in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and the Darshana segment. And this is considered as the most authoritative text on yoga. In fact, our teacher Krishnamacharya says, Vede yogo bhaguta proktaha tatrashtango yogo mukhyaha padanjalistu bhagavanitam tadesha sustrehi swakriteihi kripaluhu. This is his words. He says, in Vedas, there are a lot of references to yoga in number of places. There, Ashtanga Yoga is very important, for which, in compassion, Patanjali has given the Yoga Sutras. The Ashtanga Yoga is called Raja Yoga also, as it lays a royal path for everyone to follow. The commentary to the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali by Swami Vivekananda ji is called Raja Yoga. His lectures are also called Raja Yoga, where he talks about the Yoga Sutras of the Patanjali. There are numerous commentaries, explanations, talks, notes on the Yoga Sutras, classical, modern, even now they are coming up. Yoga, being a practical subject, is learnt and practiced in a traditional style, sampradaya, parampara in English, lineage. Now, I am going to present to you the teachings of Krishnamacharya, and there is a yoga lineage, spiritual and yoga lineage for this great yogi, Sri T. Krishnamacharya. This is brought out in this verse, Lakshmi-Natha-Samarambham Nataya-Muna-Madhyamam Asmadacharya-Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam. Lakshmi-Natha-Samarambham, starting from Lakshmi and Natha. Lakshmi is Sri Goddesses Lakshmi. Natha is Narayana, and they are called the first celestial couple, Divya Dampati. Nathai Amuna Madhyamam, there are two people, Nathamuni, Yamunamuni. They are in the mid. And Asmat Acharya Paryantam, till the end of our teachers, Vande Guru Parambaram. So, in between, from the Divya Dampati, Shri and Narayana, the messages are passed on of this parampara is passed on through the 12 Tamil saints, of whom Nammalvar is most important. And from Nammalvar, this was passed on through Nathamuni, and from Nathamuni, we in our parampara take Yogacharya to bring this message here for us. Quick idea about Nathamuni, most important, because there is a lot of references to his work Yoga Ragasya in this presentation also. Born in 823 in Kattumannar Kovil, which is in Tamil Nadu, to Ishwaramuni, and parents named him Ranganatha on his birth, and he came to be known as Ranganathamuni. Muni means the one who has silenced the mind. Mananath Munihi. So this is an achievement in yoga itself. And he revived the 4,000 sacred Tamil verses in a mystic way, Nathamuni himself. And he received them in a mystic way from Nammalvar. And the Tamil verses are called Dravida Vedas and held in high esteem as authority for understanding and experiencing the Supreme Being. And they are held equivalent to Sanskrit Vedas. Two important texts which are attributed to Nathamuni are Nyaya Tattva and Yoga Ragasya. Both have been lost over a period of time. And our teacher, Sri T. Krishnamacharya, got back the Yoga Ragasya in a mystic way as he travels to the Arvar Trinagar, and in a temple, he goes through a process of meditation, and he gets it in his meditative state. Quickly, Sri T. Krishnamacharya is considered as the father of modern day yoga, a Vedic scholar, yogi, and a Vedantin. Learned yoga in the Himalayas, founded a yoga shala in Mysore, and a spiritual lineage, I told you, he stays to Nathamuni. He has a lot of work, of which Yogavalli, a Sanskrit commentary to Yoga Sutra, which is what we are going to take up and look into. In this, he makes references to Yoga Ragasya of Nathamuni, and here we find the important aspects relating to Dhyana and Samadhi. Particularly in this Yogavalli, in the first chapter of the Yoga Sutra, Samadhi Pada, we find a lot of references. What is the core teaching of this lineage called the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, Nathamuni, Nammalvar? The Sri Vaishnava philosophy, Vishitta Advaita, and one of the important teachers in this lineage is Sri Ramanujacharya. Three cardinal principles. Reality is Tat. Reality is threefold. Tattvas. They are Chit, sentience, Achit, non-sentient, and Ishvara, Supreme Being, which is a couple. Chit, sentience are many. Achit, sentience, non-sentience, Prakriti part. It is one, but into many parts. And Ishvara, Supreme Being, is one. And this part is to be held in mind because there is a lot of references about this as we go into the Dhyana-Samadhi segments. Supreme Being is Vishnu, Narayana, Vasudeva, so many names. And Shri, along with Shri, as his concept, the Supreme Being is worshipped and held as the highest in this tradition. Sentience and non-sentience form the body of the Supreme Being. Sharira, Shariri, Bhava. Now, Supreme Being, apart from pervading everywhere, resides inside every being. In fact, Supreme Being, according to this lineage, is in 5 ways. Para, in the Vaikuntha, Vyuha, as it is in the Kshirabdi or the Milky Ocean, from where the creation is done by him. And then Vyuha, Vibhava are Rama and Krishna avatars, and Antaryami is one inside, Archa, or what are the divinities which are found in the temple. In all the 5 places he pervades. The way to attain the Supreme Being is devotion, bhakti, and total surrender, prabhati. This is the short way of understanding the teachings of this lineage. Now, let us go to the subject proper. Dhyana and Samadhi. What is the importance of Dhyana and Samadhi? As I told in the beginning, Dhyana and Samadhi forms part of the 7th and 8th Anga of the Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga consists of Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi. All together 8. In this Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi, which is taken in the 3rd chapter of the Yoga Sutra, is called Antaranga Sadhana. And the others are called Bahiranga Sadhanas. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, up to Pratyahara. Now, this is Antaranga because it relates to the Antarkarana. See, the Karanas are the instruments, tools, to which certain things are done. The Antakaranas are Chitta. Manas, Buddhi, Ahankara, mind, ego, and intellect. Sankhya says that together they are called Chitta in the Yoga Sutras, and this is called as a Antakarana. And because it is Antakarana and this is used, these 3 are called Antaranga Sadhanas. Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, 3 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. They are important. Let us look at what is yoga per se, and we will see something important in this. The Sanskrit word, there are a number of meanings and definitions. In fact, the idea of this taking the importance of yoga, taking the importance of dhyana and samadhi particularly from the point of view of yoga is given by Sri T. Krishnamacharya in his Yogavalli, in his commentary to the 2nd Sutra, Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha. Now in this, he said, there are, in the Namalinganusasana, yoga means dhyana. This is lexicon, equivalent words. Yoga is equivalent. The equivalent words of yoga is sannaganam, upayam, sangati, dhyanam, yukti. Dhyana comes, not the other limbs. As per Dhatupada, Yuj Samadho, yoga means samadhi. So we have got both dhyana and samadhi, and word-wise they are equivalent to yoga, we can see. Which one has to be taken here? He says, dhyana and samadhi have a cause and effect relationship. And he says in Yogavalli that they are synonyms themselves. In the Yoga Sutra itself, we can find the reference in the 3rd chapter, 3rd Sutra, Tad eva arthamatra nirbhasam swarupa shunyamiva samadhihi. Tad eva, that itself, what is stated in the 2nd Sutra. 2nd Sutra is about the dhyana. It is a definition on dhyana. The 1st Sutra is on dharana, 3rd chapter, Deshabandha Chittasya Dharana. Tatra pratyaya ekatanata dhyanam. We will see that. Dhyanam is something to do with dharana, and that dhyanam itself becomes samadhi. So they have a cause and effect relationship. They are even synonyms. And they are equivalent to the word yoga, and they are so important in that. There are three foundations according to Sri Krishnamacharya for dhyanam. He says, dhyata, dhyanam, dhyeya. Anyone who wants to do meditation, he says in this commentary, that must be aware of these three. Dhyata, who is the meditator? What are the characteristics? Dhyanam, what is meditation? Dhyeya, object. These three are independent, having different characteristics but connected. Dhyata is the soul, often called as Purusha, Atma. Yoga Sutra calls it as Drashta, perceiver. It is not simply perception, it is perception but experience. It is Chaitanya, it is experience also. Dhyanam is a state of mind, Chitta, which is in pure Sattva state, but it is a part of the Prakriti. Chitta is a part of the Prakriti, but at the level of Dhyanam, this Chitta must be in pure Sattva. Dhyeya, object of focus, it can be anything. In fact, in the third chapter of the Yoga Sutra, it gives various objects of focus from Prakriti. Chandre Tara Vihagyanam Dhruve Tadgati Jnanam. So, Bhuvana Jnanam Surya Samyamata, you can focus on sun, moon, pole stars. But this tradition, Krishnamacharya strongly recommends only Ishvara as the object of focus. But the reason is, he says, if you do anything on Prakriti, you are likely to get caught into the Prakriti itself. And because of that, the Prakriti is made up of the three gunas, and particularly the Rajas and Tamas. In fact, the Yoga Sutra in the third chapter says, be very warned, te samadha upasargaha yuttane chittayaha. If you are going to go through the path of having Prakriti, you get a knowledge of them. You get knowledge, you get power, and you are likely to get caught into that. So one thing is bhava pratyayo videha prakritilayanam. There is a possibility of one becoming only to be coming back to the universe itself, to completely get dissociated, reach that state of complete self-understanding, kaivalya, and to be one with the Supreme Being. They will come in the way. So Ishvara alone is recommended. Let us go into the second sutra's definition and Krishnamacharya's, what he says. We will get a lot of idea about Dhyanam. Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha. Yoga is the control of mental activities. Here he says, Atra Yoga Padam Dhyanam Ityartham. Here the word yoga means Dhyanam. He says, Chittavritti Nirodha means restraint of those activities of the mind which are moving outward towards object. Vritti, activity, chitta. Nirodha is restraint. Here it is a restraint of those activities, not all activities, those activities which are opposed to the very dhyanam itself. So here it is means dhyanam. Nirodha means restraint of the activities from moving away. If we do the dhyana, we will know more about it. How many times we have to do something to keep the thoughts away, which are unconnected. Dhyanam has, here itself he says, Paramapurusha, Sarveshwara, Ishvara as the object. The authority for this is Tadjapaha Tadartha Bhavanam. In the first chapter of this Yoga Sutra, after the Ishvara Pranidhanatva Sutra, this idea of Tadjapaha Tadartha Bhavanam comes. Tadjapaha, japa, doing japa of that which Tasya Vachagaha Pranavaha. The one who Ishvara is addressed by Pranava Om, Tadjapaha, doing a japa with Om, Artha Bhavanam, along with the reflection on the meaning. Bhavanam is very nicely said, is to place in the mind. That is why I have taken it up, because it is the process of Dhyanam. Bhavanam is to place in the mind the form of the Supreme Being, and this happens by the strength of Dhyana. So we get two messages. One is the Dhyanam requires, is done according to him on the Ishvara. It is done in a form of japa, a meditative process using the japa of mantra and holding the form of the Supreme Being in the heart. And that happens on account of the strength of Dhyana. This is the main message. We will get elaboration of that in the other sutras when we are going through that. Procedure. He says Dhyanam is understood from Yoga Sutra's third chapter, Tatra Pratyaya Ekatanata Dhyanam. That is to continuously link the mind. Pratyaya here is mind. Ekatanata in one direction. Continuously link the mind with the chosen object. Object has been chosen through Dharana. We are going to see how Dharana is recommended as very important. How one has to do it, he gives them procedures. To continuously link the mind with a chosen object. So, most important point here, he says, by the practice of different pranayamas. Pranayama practice is very important in Dhyanam because unless Dharana sets in, Dhyana will not happen. Dharana itself cannot set in unless pranayama is done. In fact, in Yoga Sutra, in the second chapter towards the end, it says, Tataha kshiyate prakasha avaranam. It brings down, reduces the avaranam, that is covering the prakasha, which is sattva. The avaranam is rajas and tamas. Pranayama, when done properly, puts down the rajas and tamas, makes the sattva to come up. Dhāraṇā-Sute yogyata manasaha. It makes the mind fit and ready for dharana. The mind, which is bereft of rajas and tamas, full of pure sattva, having as its base the knowledge of the soul, dharma-bhuta jnana, which is very important in this tradition. It is simply not possible just to keep the mind and the mind focuses. It needs the interference, the power of the soul to make the focus. And the soul has got two jnana, dharma-bhuta jnana, understanding, its ability to understand the entire things which are outside in the Prakriti and itself, and dharmi jnana, it can understand its own nature. And this knowledge base of the soul is very important. Yoga Sutra also talks about it. Yoga Sutra also talks about the role of the drashta in the. In fact, it says, na tat swabhasam drishyatvad. By itself, it cannot shine. Na tat swabhasam drishyatvad. Drishyam here means the chitta or the mind. Thinking continuously the God who is in the heart, already held, thinking continuously dhyana, which results in the mind having only one object, is spoken of as pratyaya ekatanata, and this is known as dhyanam. The method for this dhyanam, linking the God inside the heart. He talked about inside the heart from the Narayana Shuktam. And this is the first reference with the particular procedure itself he gives. We are going to see a lot more recommendations for the dhyanam. Anantamovyayam kavigum samudrentam vishvashambhuvam padmakosha pratikashagum hridayam chapyato mukam. This is coming in the Narayana Shuktam. That says one should meditate within the inverted lotus bud-like heart upon the Supreme Being in the Hridaya, which is in the mid-chest region, all-knowing, the cause of happiness to the universe whole, who is the end of the ocean, takes us to the end of the ocean of samsara, takes us away from that, and the goal of all striving. The point of focus in meditation is the space, Dhagarahasam, within the heart, which resembles an inverted lotus bud. In fact, as we do the pranayama, the inverted lotus bud will turn up, and then one can visualize the Supreme Being in that. What is the role of the soul and God in dhyana? We will see quickly. The chitta, by itself is, he says, ahankara, ego, is inanimate and insentient and cannot act on its own. whether it is want to go outward or inward. The one denoted by Pranava, Paramatma, is understood as all-knowing, with qualities capable of punishing and rewarding the compassionate. So he is taking the idea of this Paramatma, Ishvara, called as Brahman in the Vedas and in Vedanta. In Yoga Sutra, it is Ishvara. In fact, in Yoga Sutra also, it calls it as all-knowing. It says the qualities of Ishvara, according to Yoga Sutra per se, is Klesha karma vipaka aseyi aparamrishta purusha vishesha Ishvara. Ishvara is different and it is only one, but it is not in any way any of the souls. So the souls are different, the Ishvara is different, Vishesha Purusha. And this is never been a part. That is how the individual souls and Ishvara are differentiated. Never been a part of the Klesha Karma cycle, birth and rebirth, birth, death, etc. Aparamrishtaha, Purusha Vishesha Ishvara, Tatra Niratishayam Sarvagnya Vidam. It's all knowing, it is a source of all knowledge. Shayesha Purveshamapi Guruhu Kalena Anavacchetat. He is the teacher's teacher. These are the three important qualities. But Vedanta and Sri Vaishnava Sampradayas, which is a part of the Vedanta, gives more to the Ishvara, Paramatma, and they are brought out and given here by Krishnamacharya to say, what is Ishvara given here has all those qualities which are, even though they are not stated, we have to take them. Capable of punishing and rewarding the compassionate, they are all given elsewhere, particularly in the Sri Vaishnava. And according to him, Nathamuni's Yoga Ragasya contains this. It says that this Ishvara given here has those qualities which are stated elsewhere. Therefore, the mind, whether to move outward or inward, needs the blessings of the Supreme Being. Is the most important point in this tradition. So, our thoughts emanate, and thoughts, do they emanate on their own? They emanate. And what is the role of the God, the Ishvara? It says it needs the blessings of the Ishvara, Supreme Being. So, with the effort of the soul takes an effort to perceive and uses the mind, and after that, because of the activities of the mind, with the blessings of the Supreme Being, the mind, otherwise the mind is disturbed. Otherwise here means the mind is restrained with the blessings of the omniscient Supreme Being, and even in the absence of the blessings of the Supreme Being is disturbed, is to be understood. By itself, if the vrittis are klishta vrittis on account of our past vasanas, they are going to give us more trouble, which Yoga Sutra itself says. And the klishta vrittis are on account of the past karmas that one has done, and they are called papa vahi. And Vyasa, the commentator to Yoga Sutra, says it moves in papa vahi. Because of the papa done earlier, the kleshas are formed, and the kleshas, when they are predominant in our mind, in our chitta, it takes us into the one direction. Klishta vritti, which was opposed to yoga practice and which are opposed to happiness, it leads to sorrow. But with the blessings of the Supreme Being, it is possible, desirable, and recommended to have the restraint and take it in Kalyanavahi, in the good direction. And one more point about this Supreme Being having a say in our thought process. Chittavrittis is coming in Gayatri Mantra. Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimi Dhiyo Yona Prachotayat. Yaha, the one, Naha, our, Dhiyaha, intellect, Prachotayat, kindles. That Tat Savituru Varenyam, Tat Savituhu, that which is in the sun and which is glow, in that glow, let us meditate. That Yaha, Naha, Saha, Yaha, the one, Naha, our, Dhiyaha, intellect, Prachotayat. That is the most important point. Taking the third sutra, Tada Drashtuhu Swarupe Avattanam, Sri Krishnamacharya says, Atma, the Atma, Drashtuhu means Atma. It is not simply the Atma, the perception of the Atma, the perception of the perceiver. What is perceived? When the mind is disturbed, the various objects outside through the doors of the mind, it is not simply perception, experience of joy or sorrow based on the strength of the vasanas, impressions on account of the actions done in the previous lives. This also is accepted by the Yoga Sutra. Klesha mulaha karmashayo drishta adrishta janma vedaniyaha. The experience is for the Atma only. At the stage of the mental activities being totally controlled, the totally pure own form comprising of knowledge of the self and bliss shines. By the practice of mental control, in the state of meditation, when the rajas and tamas being dropped, the Atma perceives the Supreme Beings for some time. At that time, the external objects are forgotten. What I am reading out here, the sentences, are just simply English translations of the Sanskrit commentary of Krishnamacharya, and I am taking them to explain further. The meaning of this sutra is, at the time of control of the mental activities, the Jivatma is in its own form of knowledge and bliss, which are a part of Chat-Chit Ananda. At the time, the Jivatma is disconnected with the external world. Let us again go back to the idea of the mental activities, the role of soul and God. That is, when one wants to get engaged in any activity, he says, the knowledge of the object is attained by the mind, then the desire happens, then only the attempt to acquire is taken. This is the process that we must know. The same process is gone through in the Dhyanam also, according to Krishnamacharya. Perception and Dhyanam are one and the same, according to him, which is considered as a proper sequence. In the yoga philosophy, the Atma is connected to the mind to the senses, and the senses to the object, which results in perception, and that is the sequence. It is only for the Atma, the knowledge, and the experience. Also, the connection with the mind happens only by the will of all-powerful Supreme Being. So, we have brought out the idea of what is the role of the soul and what is the role of the Supreme Being. For the Jivatma, individual self, the interest action in this life is dependent on the imprints of the past lives of karma, accepted by Vedanta and Yoga Sutra also, and the will of the Supreme Being. This is very important. Will of the Supreme Being is from the tradition of this tradition. Along with the nature of the past life actions, the permission of the Supreme Being is required. And he says, while treating this in the Yoga Sutra's commentary, he says the Supreme Being allows the individual's chittavrittis to go in the way in which it go. It has to go based on our past vasanas. Hatha Yoga Pratipika also talks about it. Everywhere it is talked about. Our vasanas drive our chittavrittis. But when we make the total surrender and we do dhyanam, and when we are connected and we pray, then the Supreme Being is merciful, compassionate, and he takes it and drives our thought towards the Kalyani, that is auspicious, Kalyana Vahi. And that is what is stated in the Gayatri Mantra also. Yodeva Savita Asmakam. This is an elaboration of the Gayatri Mantra. Yodevaha Savitaha. In Savita, Asmakam Dhiyo Dharmadi Kocharaha. Yodeva Savita Asmakam Dhiyo Dhiya, intellect, Dharmadi Kocharaha, in the path of Dharma. Preriyetasyed Bhargaha Tatvarenyam Upasmahe. An elaboration of the Gayatri Mantra very clearly talks about it. Now, how Samadhi is achieved with the strength, we talked about the Dhyanam. We are going to see more about Dhyanam also. With the strength of the practice of detachment and discriminative knowledge, the one whose mental activities have been restrained is able to fix the mind on one object resulting in an experience of the object. Whether the object is gross or subtle, in full or parts, the object is understood. At that time, the mind is totally fixed on the object. Very important for us to understand what the procedure is going through. That special experience by the soul, Atmanubhava, during that time is known as Samprajnata. He gives it in the Vitarka Vichara Ananda Asmita Rupa Anugamat Samprajnata Samadhi. For that sutra, when he explains, he gives them. In Srimad Ramayana, he gives an example. In Srimad Ramayana, in the Ashoka forest, having seen Sita in a state of Samadhi, Hanuman thinks asunder. She is not seeing the demons, nor the fruits and flowers. In the heart, she sees only Rama. This is how he explains the state of Samadhi. By having only one in the mind being in Samadhi, not seeing anything else and not affected by the problems of the body. We can see this happening to yogis. When they are in the state of Samadhi, they are not affected, and Bhagavan Ramakrishna is a great example in this. By saying only sees Rama shows that she is bereft of the thoughts of the world. Yogis, according to him, when he is talking about the Shraddha Virya Smriti Samadhi Prajna Purvaka Itaresham Sutra, he says yogis are of two types. Because what was stated earlier in 119 is Bhava Pratyayo Videga Prakriti Layana. So they are talking about a type of yogis. And he says, those who are interested in liberation, those who are interested in the experience of worldly object. Because yoga can give so much powers which are given in the Vibhuti that one can do so many things and enjoy also. But one may be interested, one who is interested in moksha. For both of them, samadhi is required. This sutra talks of the characteristics of those who are interested in liberation. Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, Samadhi, Prajna, Purvaka, Itaresham. That is this lineage. Shraddha, intense belief, faith. Virya, I am continuing in that. So I am interested in liberation. I am going to go towards that Virya with the strength. Smriti, thinking of that continuously. Samadhi prajna, always being in that state of samadhi, only mainly towards. So there should be the characteristics which are talked about in this. The previous sutra talks about those who are interested in the experience of worldly objects. Both the categories of yogis have attained samadhi. The samadhi achieved by those interested in the experience of worldly object is with desire and was explained in the previous sutra. This sutra elaborates the practice to be undertaken by those who are interested in attaining samadhi for liberation. That is why the Shraddha Sukta is largely to do with also the Vairagya aspect of it. Samadhi is attained only after the practice of dhyana. And taking up this sutra's commentary, he talks about this. Dhyana has to be practiced as per the prescriptions found in the third chapter. We saw them. How we go from dharana to dhyana and samadhi. This follows from the tradition of teachers that have been stated earlier. I have also talked to you about the tradition, about from whom we are going to talk about this. Without the clarity on meditation, dhyanam, object of meditation, dhyaya, and the performer of meditation, dhyata. So this should be dhyata. And also without experiencing the nature of the three, samadhi cannot be advised. Samadhi cannot be achieved also. Please read that as performer of meditation is dhyata. And I have said that earlier. The three have been explained in the Upanishads also. Among them, first, the Atman should be, one of the examples he gives is Kaivalya Upanishad, which says the Atman should be the Arani, that is the wood producing fire. Omkara should be the Uttararani. So on the top, by churning them, by the process of dhyana, they conceal the seed. He talks about the procedure and gives it from Kaivalya Upanishad. Jivatma should practice dhyana using its dharmabhuta jnana, endowed with a mind that is free from rajas and tamas. Should make it free from rajas and tamas by practice of pranayama. At that time, the meditator experience how it is achieved, the form of the object of meditation, that state is called Samadhi. The meditator experiences the form. Such a Samadhi is attained by the strength of a practice called Ahangrahobhasana. He is introducing the second one. Yesterday he talked about Kaivalya Upanishad, but here he is talking about a practice called Ahangraha Upasana, meditation with the focus on Aham. Here he says the Aham is not the individual self or not even the mind, ego, that is Ahankara or Asmita. It is that Aham here, according to this tradition, represents that Supreme Being and individual soul also. The 5 preparatory steps stated in this sutra, Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, Samadhi, Prajna, all this, they are all helping directly in the Ahangrahopasana, which is will help reach the Samadhi directly. The way of Ahangrahopasana practice to be done can be found in Pratardhana Vidya, Narayana Suktam, we saw that a part of it, Mundaka, Katha, Shandilya, Svetastra, and other Upanishads and other texts. The Ahangraha, according to him, here he elaborates to say that the idea is to focus on the soul, Supreme Soul, which has as its body the individual soul. So when we are talking about Supreme Soul, we are also talking about individual soul. When we are talking about individual soul, we are talking about the Supreme Soul also. When we use a word, he says from Sanskrit grammar, when we use a word son, we always S-O-I-N, son. Son means there is a father, which is also talks about father. So the idea of Aham used to denote both Jivatma and Paramatma. Samadhi, achievement. The Samadhi, will remain lasting depending upon the intensity of the prayers of the practitioner. Duration. The practitioner of the meditation attains the object of his desire. Here, elsewhere, he says, what should be the duration? What should be the intensity? It depends completely on individuals, because our mind is based on the vasana, and if the purva vasanas are really good, one may achieve it immediately. There have been a lot of yogis who have never even done any dhyana, but have been able to be in the state of samadhi. The practitioner of meditations attains the object of his desire. This is vouched by the testimony of works of Valmiki, Parashara, Vasishta, and others. In the state of samadhi of the devotee, the Almighty gets attracted and is pleased. He gives all that is desired in the form which can be meditated upon. He saves from all calamities. In fact, this is more important. He comes in the form which can be meditated upon. We are going to see it shortly in another, from another angle. The authority for all this text is in Ramayana and others. They are found in the Kurukadisha summary of Yoga Ragasya composed by Nathamuni. That is how he brings the parampara. The details are also found in Ishvara Siddhi, which forms part of the Siddhitraya of Yamana Muni, grandson of Nathamuni. So quickly, he says there are 4 ways of attaining samadhi. The first cause of samadhi is real knowledge of the Jivatma, tada drattugu swarupe avasthanam. This knowledge helps in the meditation of the self, Ahangrahopasana. This will help in attainment of samadhi. And other commentators into the Yoga Sutra, this is from Krishnamacharya, other commentators will say Abhyasa Vairagya Abhyam Tannirodha can also be taken to be the first way of Abhyasa Vairagya Abhyam Tannirodha, practice and detachment to get into the state of Chittavritti Nirodha, which is Samadhi. The second cause, those who are unable to focus their mind on Ahangrahopasana have to overcome the distractions. The Paravairagya, that is in the Vairagya segment, Paravairagya can be also practiced. The second way here is also the Vitarka Vichara Ananda Asmita Rupa Anugamat Samprajnataha. Some of the commentators, including Vyasa, will say, so the first is Abhyasa Vairagya, for getting into Samadhi, Chittavritti Nirodha. Second is Vitarka Vichara Ananda Asmita Rupa Anugamat, step-by-step way to go to Samprajnata, Asamprajnata. The third way is Shraddha Virya, which we saw now. Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, Samadhi, Prajna, Purvaka, Itaresha. Now, it is very difficult to practice, in fact, three or any of the causes of Samadhi in this Yuga. He says Kali Yuga, because of the lot of distractions. The individual souls are completely distracted, and this is the Yuga Dharma, according to him, is very, very difficult. Krishnamacharya says. She says that is what is Nathamuni says. The fourth method of attaining Samadhi, which gives enjoyment and liberation, which is synonymously known as Samadhi, also variously denoted by Pranidhana, Prapatti, Bhakti, and Ishvara Upasana. The word Ishvara indicates Narayana together with Sri. The Pranidhana of Ishvara is Ishvara Pranidhana. He gives this in the sutra, very important sutra of the first chapter, Ishvara Pranidhanatva. This has to be done with purity in the three karanas, instruments, kaya, vacha, manasa, speech, thought, and deed. Further, as stated in the Narayana Upanishad, uttering the word Om, he gives another way. And saluting the Lord day and night again and again is the meaning of the word Pranidhana. There is a Upanishad called Narayana Upanishad. In that, it starts with the mantra Atha Purusho Gavai Narayano Kamayata Praja Srijeti. In that, it talks about the idea of uttering the word Om and then thinking of the Lord again and again. By Ishvara Pranidhana, one attains Samadhi. This is the meaning of this sutra. In fact, in the second chapter, elsewhere, in the second chapter, this comes in the first chapter. Second chapter, as a result of Ishvara Pranidhana, the Patanjali himself says, Samadhi Siddhi Ishvara Pranidhanat. If one does Ishvara Pranidhana, Samadhi is got. We are getting this in the Yoga Sutra itself. The meaning of the word Va is special treatment given here. That is another important point one will know. It is generally optional. Va means optional. Ishvara Pranidhanat Va. In fact, important commentators, classical commentators say what was not possible, Va, or Abhyasa Vairagya Abhyam, or Vitarka Vichara Ananda Asmita Rupa Anugamat, or Shraddha Virya, or Ishvara Pranidhana. Of course, there are other 8 which are going to come after the Ishvara Pranidhana also. So the Va here is or. But Krishnamacharya says it is not simply or, it is Eva, the only way. It is the means that will lead everyone to attain the goal of Samadhi easily. Ishvara Pranidhanat Va only. Pranidhana in Ishvara is Ishvara Pranidhana. Pranidhana is a Bhakti Vishesha. It's a kind of Bhakti and the supreme of Bhakti. The Lord, who is with his consort Lakshmi, becomes pleased with the devotion and surrender, and further by his highest degree of meditation, he is pleased and bestows freedom from the 3 kinds of Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, Adidaivika. It is only by this Pranidhana that the meditator attains success in Samadhi and desired benefits. Most important point is, we are talking about the first chapter. In the first pada or first chapter called Samadhi Pada, the Yama and other limbs, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, they are not talked about at all. In fact, there is not even a word of Dhyana. We brought it out as an explanation, commentary from Krishnamacharya. The word is always Samadhi. Then has Patanjali omitted them? He says, Krishnamacharya says, Yama and other limbs are not singled out and mentioned, but the Samadhi, which is the top among these, is mentioned in numerous sutras, and hence Yamas and others, which are Samadhi's limbs, should also be considered to have been mentioned. Was most important. In fact, the word is Yoga Anga Anushtana. It is not steps or anything. Anga means parts of the body. Angi, Anga and Angi. The Angi here is Samadhi. For the Angi Samadhi, the others are Angas. Unless other Angas are there, the Angi itself cannot be there. In fact, for Vedas also, Veda Angas are so important. And even in the Veda Angas, they talk about the head, the body, and all that. Chandas, Nirukta, and all that. Similarly, all the other seven tools are also angas. In the Sutra, Yadapi Mata Dhyanatva, very important, he talks about, according to one's wish, remembering the image of the object that is similar to the one presented in the scriptures with a single focus is dhyana. He says, dhyana, he explains how it is remembering the image of the object, recalling. Ramanujacharya says in his commentary to the Vedanta Sutras called Sri Bhāryam, he says, Darshana Samana Akara Smriti, Dhyanam. Dhyanam is Darshana Samakara, as if we are seeing something in front, Darshana, Samana equivalent, Akara Smriti. So we are going to see how we are going to look at an object and take it into our mind, and remembering that object is Dhyanam. Dhyana is with one object only, and there should be an object. The word dhyana is derived from the root dhyai chintayam. The word chinta refers to the intense remembering of the object and has been experienced. Chinta, smriti, dhyana are synonym. The image created by memory is due to a firm experience through the senses. Experience is in the form of knowledge. It happens with the help of the mind, which is in the form of pure sattva, and bereft of rajas and tamas, which is aided by the dharmabhuta jnana we saw it earlier. When such a mind becomes attached to the object of meditation, then dhyana is experienced. Now, those in pursuit of samadhi utilize the pleasing forms of the divinities made up of clay or metal and fix their gaze. This is very important in this commentary. He gives clay straight away, easy way for doing a dhyanam. Fix it to attain one-pointedness and firmness with the mental focus. Here he says they are all made up of clay and metal, does not mean they are prakritik. Even though they have been taken out of the prakriti, they have been sanctified, and hence they become aprakritik. Later, by virtue of the constant practice, they will be able to recall the form when they require. The divine forms are to be used for this purpose by the practitioners. What we find in the temple, the various divine forms of various divinities. In fact, every divinity we have a word, and we will be doing a japa with the word and recalling the forms. That is the process. The process of reproducing the same form in memory, just now I told you, is homogeneous to what has been seen, is called dhyana. And I gave the idea of Ramanuja, Swami Ramanujacharya, how he talks about darshana samanakara smriti. Samadhi is the continuous flow of such dhyana which has transformed into an object of meditation and is form. Now, the fact that the one to be meditated upon is Ishvara is established by the Sutra Trayo, Tasya Vatikaha Pranavaha Tajjapaha Tadartha Bhavanam. And Tadaha Pratyakchedana Atikamaha Api Antaraya Bhavascha. These three sutras, some of them we have seen earlier also. This Pratyakchedana Adhikamaha gives the result of that. Now, only a meditator whose mind is not overpowered by rajas and tamas will be capable of perceiving the gross and subtle forms of the object of meditation in 4 types of samadhis. Savitarka, Nirvitarka, Savichara, Nirvichara. The form of dhyaya of meditation is the Paramatma. It can be subtle or gross. It is not made out of Prakriti and not associated with Prakriti and is self-luminous. In the gross form, it could be what we are seeing and taking it up. In the subtle form, reflecting on the qualities of the Paramatma is also the way of a dhyana. To bless the meditator, the Lord assumes the subtle and gross forms by his own will. Now, for a person who has not practiced pranayama, pratyahara will not happen for a long time, and pratyahara for a long time, dharana will be difficult. Dhyana is based on dharana, samadhi is based on supreme state of dhyana. Dhyana in turn resembles the lamp in a windless place. Samadhi cannot be experienced without dhyana. Towards the end For beginners, a form by way of an idol has to be created out of mud and metal. That is done already. It is in the sanctified and given in the temples and elsewhere. The practitioner should, before the idol, sit before this idol in a quiet and lonely place and first utter the Vedic name of the deity. Here he says one has to do it and look at it in such intense, like Trataka, without winking the eyes. And until the form of the deity gets firmly fixed in the mind, one has to gaze it without battling it. This is called as Trataka in the yogic parlance, being seated in a firm position. And that leads to, if the person is able to sit, then only Dharana has setting. Without getting into sleep, they allow their mind to be pervaded by the form of the deity. They even forget their whereabouts. In other words, they will not feel the difference between themselves and the object of the form of deity and the process of meditation. As long as such a state of mind exists, it has to be concluded that this is the duration of the Samadhi itself. Samadhi, the Paramatma, is the protector of the universe and he is compassionate. He is naturally free from kleshas and karmas. We talked about it. He exhibits his various forms only to bless the meditator. How do we get the vision? It is by the Supreme Being himself. That is what this parampara feels. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, I will give you divyam chakshuhu. I will give you special eyes. Then only you look at me. So he himself states elsewhere, all those forms which are produced by his variegated yogic potential are essentially auspicious. It's clearly stated in the Vishnu Purana. O King, the place where all these various energies are established are different forms of all encompassing form of Hari. Being pleased by the effect of the meditation, the Lord exhibits his form. This kind of a form becomes visible to the meditator. He himself exhibits. This is what is stated in the 4,000 Tamil verses of the Alvars also. In Samadhi, there will be nothing else other than the form of the object of meditation. That kind of memory can be attained by the meditator by attaining the experience of the form of the Lord. This form of the Lord becomes firmly rooted in the memory depending upon the strength of the special samskaras, yogika samskaras. When such a memory exists, the one who remembers the form of the object meditation becomes as if bereft of his own form. This is what is the Arthamat Swarupa Shunyamiva. That is the word Yoga Sutra uses. The meditator becomes embodiment of bliss. What happens in Samadhi? The meditator becomes embodiment of bliss and Ananda. The object of meditation alone appears in the state and experienced in that state. Such an experience occurs for a person who is firmly attained Samadhi and focused on a subtle form of the object of meditation. Such a state of experience is beyond description, he says. To reach to that state, one needs to persist in the state of Samadhi, which is attained by focusing upon the gross form for a long time. I mean, sum up and Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi in this tradition involves Ishvara, and we saw the Ishvara Pranidhana as the most important and only way. Ishvara here is Lord Narayana with goddesses Lakshmi. Ishvara Pranidhana is the means to attain Samadhi. Preparations through the practice of asana, pranayama and pratyahara are very, very essential to get a mind bereft of rajas and tamas. Dharana precedes dhyana, which involves focus on the form of ideal consecrated. Dhyana involves recalling the form of the God as if seeing in person. Samadhi is to have only the form of the God in the mind. This happens as the God reveals himself. This leads to a state of blissful experience to the soul, which is beyond description. And I will close up with a prayer. Kayena vacha manasendriyairva buddhyatmana va prakrite swabhavat karomi yadyat sakalam parasmai narayanayeti samarpayami sarvam shri krishnarpanamastu.